United Nations Deputy Secretary General, Jan Eliasson, EU Commissioner for Economic Affairs, here representing the chairperson of the African Union Commission, Maxwell Kwezalamba, African Union Commissioners, colleagues from the UN system, ladies and gentlemen. I'm pleased to welcome you to the 13th session of the Regional Coordination Mechanism of the UN agencies and organizations working in support of the African Union and its NEPAD program. I also want to warmly welcome the Deputy Secretary General to ECA. It is also a good opportunity to felicitate Dr. Dlamini Zuma, Chairperson of the African Union Commission, and the entire AU Commission on their recent assumption of duties. This is the first RCM Africa session for both the Deputy Secretary General and myself. We are proud to be working under his leadership and that of Deputy Chairperson Mencha, who is very conversant with this process. I'm looking forward to a very engaging and stimulating exchange of views at this session. From what I have gathered, the RCM has come a long way. In its early days, the RCM was a forum for sharing information on our different programs of support for the African Union and NEPAD. There was a lot of bilateral servicing of the African Union by individual agencies, thus dissipating energy and burdening the institution we were committed to assist with repetitious and sometimes similar offers. Little wonder that the EU Commission then showed little interest in that arrangement at the time. They needed us to work together as one United Nations on their priorities. We have since made progress in this regard to the extent that the EU Commission is now part and parcel of the RCM process. We must nevertheless admit that the functioning of our mechanism is still work in progress. There is still a lot more to be done. In particular, we need to pose some key questions relating, for instance, to the impact of our activities and whether we are responding to the priorities of our partners. We also need to reflect on whether the 9 clusters that we have are functioning as expected. We should, moreover, ponder over the sectoral coverage of the clusters and whether their remit is too wide or too narrow. Then there is always the issue of resources. We need to ask ourselves if the resources we have put at the disposal of the RCM are adequate for the set objectives. It is obvious that we remain fully committed to working together, but that is not enough. We need also to do it in a way that will keep improving our common track record. Colleagues, the theme of our meeting, the post-2015 development agenda, is very timely. There are several processes and consultations going on in this regard, and we will be hearing from key actors in the process. I feel that it is particularly appropriate that Africa should take more than a passing interest in the development agenda that will replace the MDGs. This is not only because Africa is one of the last frontiers of development, but more importantly, because a new paradigm must take account of what we have learned before, with a view of improving on it. The post-2015 agenda is therefore key for the African Union and NEPAD. It is thus appropriate that the UN agencies working in the continent begin to share their reflections on this important issue to better contribute to the final outcome. Our deliberations should accordingly focus on how we ensure that the agenda that eventually emerges can contribute to the long-term development of the continent. I'm confident that given the extensive experience and knowledge available to us, will have a rich and meaningful set of deliberations, as well as a concrete and useful number of recommendations. Our challenge, as ever in the RCM Africa, is to redouble our efforts at working together, planning together, and implementing together as one United Nations. We need to support the efforts of the African Union as various African perspectives evolve into a common position. The focus of this meeting on the post-2015 agenda is not intended to detract us from our already approved work programs. In particular, we must redouble efforts to deliver on the 10-year capacity building program for the African Union. I recall that we presented to Deputy Chairperson Mwencha in June 2012 our efforts in this regard. In conclusion, I welcome you all back to this forum in Addis and extend my best wishes for a fruitful and productive meeting. Thank you.